Hi, welcome back guys. Today we're going to take on another one of Forsberg's first mods. We're going to weld the rear differential and we're going to install white line polyurethane bushings to cut down on wheel hop. If that sounds interesting to you, like, subscribe, and stick around. Okay, let's get into the disassembly. So when you pull the axles out, you want to mark where the axles meet up with the output shafts on both sides so that you can line them back up when you put them back together. Same thing with the drive shaft where it goes into the input shaft of the diff. I'm pulling bolts out, but I'm leaving one bolt in each side so the axles aren't hanging in my face as I'm trying to disassemble everything else. And then you'll see me pull them at the end. I pull out one of the front diff bolts, but I leave the other one until I have a jack underneath it. Here I'm trying to loosen the rear bolt. Come on, you wimp. Time for a breaker bar. Give me a lever long enough and I will move the earth. So now I'm pulling the bolts out of the drive shaft. Again, make sure you mark it so that you can put it back together the way that you took it apart. Okay, now it's time for the jack. You want to make sure you have that thing supported because it is heavy. You don't want it falling on you. I use a swivel extension to give it this bolt. Okay, and now I'm trying to leverage the drive shaft off the front of the diff. The axle is volunteering instead. So a little bit of a pry bar. It doesn't take much effort at all, actually. Don't forget you need to unhook the traction control sensors, and there's also a breather tube at the top of the diff that you need to unhook before you get the diff all the way down. Okay, so this is the part, well, one of two parts, where if you can get another pair of hands to give you some help, that would be probably the wisest move, because getting this thing out of here is sketchy at best. So the G35 coupe comes stock with a VLSD, and my research told me that I couldn't get it welded, so I bought an open diff online and had it shipped, and then dropped that off with my buddy to get it welded, and he cracked it open and found out it was also VLSD. So he took a shot at welding it, and it seems to be holding up, and it works. Both wheels lock up, which is what you need for drifting, and now I guess I have a spare just in case. Hey, success! Little did I know the nightmare was just beginning. Here I am putting a plug and a clamp on the breather tube so that the diff fluid doesn't leak out while I am turning this thing every which way trying to get the bushings out. A little bit of WD-40 penetrating oil, which I don't think makes any difference in the end. The first bushing really was that simple. It took me like 3 minutes to get it out, and now I'm test fitting the new bushings. I'm going to save you the grief, but as you can see, I use everything I can to try and get this bushing out, and it takes forever. And the bushings are grease-filled, so it's super messy. But I really did start making progress once I used the bearing puller to rip the guts out of the bushing. And wait for it. Finally. Okay, now we just grease and install the bushings and put it back in. So much for being careful. The grunting noises really do help. Again, this would be a great time to have another pair of hands helping you out. So right here I'm using my hands to guide the differential and I'm using my foot to push the jack. Once I get the stud on the back of the diff hung in the rear bushing, then I go to the front of the diff and get the first bolt put in place to support the diff. I won't bore you with the reassembly, but I get the two front bolts hooked in, I get the nut on the back, all that finger tight. Then it's a matter of just reassembling the axles and the drive shaft the way you took them apart. Make sure you line up the marks that you made when you took everything apart, then tighten everything up and you are done. Alright, I can tell you guys that that job is not for the faint of heart. Even though the website from Whiteline says that it's only supposed to take 4 hours, it does say that it requires a trade specialist to accomplish it. So I guess 4 hours means that you have to have a lift and the right tools, because I think it took me 8, maybe 9 hours to do it. You saw me fight with the bushing for about, I don't know, an hour and a half, and then the one that was actually in the subframe was worse. It took me about 3 hours. I just didn't even set the camera up while I was fighting with that one. I eventually had to take my hacksaw apart, put the blade through, hook the blade back onto the hacksaw itself, and then upside down, and then work on it, you know, cutting it for, I don't know, ever. I had to cut 2 sections out, and then I was finally able to bend it and get it out. So yeah, if you're planning on this, plan a day, plan 2 days so you can take a break in the middle and reduce your frustrations, something like that. So all right, the God thought of the day. Installing these bushings is all about traction. You wouldn't think that traction has to do with drifting because it's all about sliding, but it's actually a mixture of traction and slippage and being in the right combination. Without traction, you can't move forward and you end up just spinning out. It's like driving around on an ice skating rink. Putting in these bushings helps with wheel hop and helps to, you know, solidify the rear end of the car so you can have that traction that you need to move forward. So that reminds me of a verse where Paul's writing to the Philippians in Philippians 3, 14 and 15. He says, "One thing I do, forgetting what's behind and reaching forward to what is ahead, I press on towards the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." And so it's that idea of getting traction, right? Of moving forward. A lot of times things can come at us in life that we're not expecting, and when we do that, we can get sidelined by those things, and basically end up spinning out the car. Is the whole idea of losing traction and drifting. And so the same thing for us. When stuff comes in from the sides that we weren't expecting, we take those things, we put them in our past, we press forward, and we keep moving forward into the direction that God has for us. Lemon drops high above the chimney tops, so why can't I